It's Thursday again, tell everybody to lock in, grab some popcorn, a drink, and go and throw your AirPods in. It's the 1 hour show, constantly speaking facts. Bulletproof stats are always shooting from Matt. And when it comes to Kyle, you getting numbers and style. Jake is gonna educate you, he has that knowledge on file. Players, step your game up, don't be sluggish or lazy. Or Jimmy J might hit you with a shaky baby. Catch him on YouTube or any podcast platform. Breaking all the news down like Shaq does the backboards. No hot takes, this is where the hottest debate's at. Now kick your feet up, cause it's time for straight facts.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains, brought to you by the Up On Game Presents Network. As always, it's my guys, Jake Galley, Stat Matt Robinson. I'm James Jackson. But, guys, we have a special episode today, a really great episode. We're excited for this one. We're happy to welcome on Martin Soaries, the founder of Basketball Society on Instagram, and the basketballsociety.com, if I'm getting the URL correct with their website and everything. But Martin, man, welcome to the pod. Welcome to the Straight Facts world. Appreciate having you.
Hey, I appreciate you guys for having me on. I see the work. I see what you guys are doing, and it's a lot of genuine and great energy and a lot of great basketball talk. So those are two things that matter a lot to me. So I appreciate you guys having me on. The website is basketballsocietyonline.com.
There you go.
So
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I did a little tweak there, but no, we're good. We're here. I appreciate you guys having me on. Seriously, I'm looking forward to it.
Of course, and for the watchers, the listeners, y'all can't see this, so I suggest you go to YouTube so you can see what's going on in the background of Martin's set right now. He got some crazy gurus handling the basketball. The visual right now is Bruce Lee, and I won't give away what you got the rest of it, but it is crazy. So if that just gives you a little insight into the basketball guru that is Martin Soaries on the pod today, that's all you need to know. But of course, man, we're breaking down the NBA Finals on this episode. We're breaking down a little bit of the whole series, but really want to, focus on Game 6 and a possible Game 7 that'll be Thursday night as we're recording Wednesday. And this is good for our pods because we are the Stats and Facts pod. And if you go to the Basketball Society, you are a lot of breaking down of the gameplay, breaking down of the style of basketball. This is going to be a good mix for us, right now, Martin. So why don't we just first summarize games 1 through 5 and then kind of get a full scope on that. So Celtics take game 1, 120 to 108, on a rough shooting night from Jason Tatum, but the others came in and really helped out. Warriors take game 2, 107 to 88. Celtics come back and win game 3 in Boston, 116 to 100. Game 4, Steph Curry erupts for 43. The Warriors take it 107 to 97. And then game 5, of course, a tight one down the stretch, but the Warriors come back and take it by 10, 104 to 94. So, Martin, first we'll go to you, man. Give us just the loose thoughts of the series as we see it now. Warriors up 3-2 back to Boston.
The main thing I focus on with the Warriors, guys, and I just focused on this word when I did my preview episode on my show for the finals. Like when it comes to the Warriors, this is the word that it could just comes down to this for me because it applies to different things. The word is stamina. Stamina. You got to be able to keep up with these guys physically, from 3, moving around. Everything is about you got to keep up with Steph. You got to keep up with Clay. Jordan Poole is coming off the bench scoring. Like this is the Warriors we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So that's why I had a tough time making my pick at first. I ended up picking the Warriors. But when I thought about it, it's like I have to go with – I picked the Warriors on experience, but I had to see the first game. I had to see how Boston was looking, how comfortable they were, who's hitting shots, who's in rhythm, right? And when I saw them go for 120 in the first game just on some we're here, like we're fearless, we're ready to hit shots, you mentioned like Jason Tatum struggled that game, but they won that by committee. So that had me a little like, okay, at least encouraged that this would be a series. But I think that theme keeps coming up because we've seen, and I talked about it in my recap from game 5, the thing with Boston is like you just keep seeing these spurts where they look so great and so capable. And then they just look gross other times. They look goofy and gross other times. So to me, it keeps coming back to what I talked about in my preview, just that stamina. You have to be able to keep scoring in spurts to keep up with. Golden State's gonna score. They're gonna score 100. Boston struggled to score 100 a few times in this series, and they lost every game. Like, so to me, I keep coming back to that, the spurts of scoring and the stamina keeping up with them to be able to trade those blows. So they've been really impressive, but I think the times where they have lapses and they don't look impressive is where they kind of lose that stamina and that focus.
Yeah, it's something that Matt, you pointed out right when the series is about to start. You looked at the Miami Heat series for Boston, and you said like Miami was one of the most struggling offenses, coming in to that series, and Boston barely beat them. Like, so their offense wasn't clicking. And have you still seen that through the series? I don't think I've seen a game where their offense has clicked, where we're getting Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then the sprinkling of others. Like, I think you pointed that coming into this series, and it's still reigning true as I see it now.
Yeah, the only time it kind of clicked was in Game 3, when they withstood. They had a pretty big lead. They had like 11-point lead at half. Warriors went on a big run in the third, as they've done all series, and then they kind of in the fourth they shut them down defensively, and it was just kind of like an all around of Tatum had 26, Brown had 27, Smart had 24, Grant Williams had 10, Al Horford had 11. That's like what they can be. Like, that's like what you want.
Mhm.
That's like if this was a regular season Celtics game and you looked at the box score, you'd see that and say, "Oh, that's makes sense." And that's the only time through the 5 games that's actually happened, because the Warriors defense has been able to disrupt that flow and rhythm so much.
I also think we need to give Matt his flowers a little bit, because it has been the coronation of Andrew Wiggins. Finally cashing in. Matt set his total. He's like, look, if Andrew Wiggins scores 17 points or more, the Warriors are going to win the game. That's like a blind, like, put that test out there. So
ding, ding, ding,
I like
ding,
it,
ding,
Matt.
ding.
I like it.
Ding, ding, ding.
So he's been, last game, obviously, game 5, 26 points, 13 rebounds, kicked into assists as well. And the Warriors, I think they're starting to kind of catch their groove on offense. Draymond Green is someone, James, that you mentioned is like not showing up in the box score as having an improved series since the first couple of games.
But you watch that game 5.
Yeah, you watch him in the pick and roll. He's starting. There's one right in the first quarter where he actually took it to the basket. No one accounted for him. They're selling out to Steph Curry. Easy layup. Like those weren't really available. Those type plays weren't available, or he wasn't taking them in the first couple of games. He's turned it around, so that's been impressive. But on the Boston end, they really struggled in the first quarter in game 5. And I saw a lot of like the my turn, your turn type basketball. It would come to, their motion may not work out, comes to the end of the shot clock, and then it's just, okay, Tatum, Brown, make a move, put up a shot, goes in, goes out. That's your offense. They need to get into a more of a sharing the ball rhythm. We talked about Tatum's playmaking, improved playmaking, as well as them leaning on Smart a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at so far in the series.
And here's the thing about Jason Tatum's playmaking. We love it. And we, Martin, we as a podcast, we're high on the Boston Celtics even when they stunk. Don't know why, but we saw what this team could be on paper and knew it might just click eventually. So we revered Jason Tatum's playmaking all season. And those 13 assists in game 1 is a great byproduct of if he gets his others involved and they make shots, the Celtics can win a game even if he's struggling to score. But at some point, this is the finals, right? And at some point, you're playing the Warriors and Steph Curry. And you can be a great drive and kick out guy all you want. I don't want to have to rely on Marcus Smart and Derek White and Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard to win these games every time you drive and kick the ball. At some point, Jason Tatum needs to drive to score. Are you seeing that? Like, are you just seeing him? He's such a willing passer, and it's great because he's a good passer. But when they're baiting him and he's driving, now he's suddenly turns the ball over, and now he's not in rhythm. He's not getting to the basket. He's got to either learn to operate in that mid range or learn how to get to the basket. Am I right or am I wrong in that?
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I wouldn't say he needs to learn, because that's the thing that bothers me, is that he knows how to do these. Jason Tatum is an elite first team all NBA for what he does on both sides of the floor, but he's an elite offensive player. Elite. I watched Jason Tatum in game 5. And I'm going to circle back to like your point on just his offense, but this translates to that. This is connected to that. He went 0 for 2 from the free throw line twice in game 5, twice. I'm like, bro, you're not hurt. You're not like what could it possibly? You're too good of a shooter. That's when it drives me crazy. Like my mom will call me sometimes like, how can guys making that much money in the NBA miss free throws? Like she can't like they should
Can't
all make
fathom it.
all the free throws.
Yeah.
Everyone should be making,
Yeah.
It's like they're in the NBA, they make too much money. I'm like, and then I have to like explain it to her, I'm like, Ma, you watched me miss free throws too, and I was a great free throw. Like just try to think about it a little deeper. But Jason Tate, when you're that good of a shooter, you go over twice. I'm just like, okay, I'm not saying something's not right or whatever. I can't explain that. But when I see that, to me, it connects to other things. So back to your point, here's the problem when you're a pass first player. The other team knows you're going to pass.
There it is. Yeah.
So they Golden State starts getting deflections because when he makes that middle drive, they know he's going to the adjacent corner. They know what pass he's going to. So when you're pass first, they're just waiting for you to pass because they know you're not going up to score. So I've been, and this is the tough part about this Jason Tatum thing for me. He's played well enough to beat some people. He really he has to hit another level. I've been saying it on my show. He's got to get a 30 ball. I don't know how he expects to beat the Warriors if he doesn't get at least 130 ball. He's had 27 and 10, yeah. 23, 11 and 6. Like these are great stat lines. In the final, I mean, that's good. It ain't good enough to beat Steph and these guys. So it's tough because he's playing well. He could be better, but it's like he's playing well enough to beat Miami, Milwaukee.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's playing well to beat everyone until this point. Yeah, until this point.
He's got to get to another level, and it is his scoring, and it is the assurance at the rim. I don't know, at 6'10", I don't know why he's just not outstretching his hand at the rim and just looking to lay people all day. I don't know why he doesn't have the scoring first mentality, but I do think that's the big adjustment for him right now.
For sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to his point.
He's got to unload the clip, in my opinion. He's got to unload the clip this next game, bro.
He had 3 air balls in the second half in Game 5.
Were they all threes, Matt? Were those all threes? Because I
at least 2 of them were.
At least 2 of them were. And that I'm like, bro, Jason Tatum's one of the players that we have said has kept the mid-range alive. Where is it?
Yeah. Get back to that midi, man. That's what I say. Get back to that midi. It ain't dead.
And one thing I point to that I think that indicates, Matt, is like this was, I think a lot about it was the all-around play of the Celtics coming in, and the big point for the Warriors was their experience. And that also goes into your ability to stand up to. Tatum has played 44 minutes, 43 minutes, 41, goes down to 34 in Game 2, and then Game 1 he had 42 minutes. So he's playing and logging tons of minutes against a very physical, hard-playing team. And I wonder if the air balls are starting to show, maybe it's the legs, and maybe that's where he starts to fade a little bit.
The shoulder may not be 100% right. I know he's playing through it, but you see him kind of wince at it a little bit. But hey, you in the finals, everybody banged up. Your boy Robert Williams is going out there on one knee and doing something. So I don't really want to use that as an excuse, but he has to step up. But continuing on that theme of what the Celtics have to do to pull this series out, because that's what we're going to dive into. What do both of these teams have to do to win the series? For the Warriors to wrap it up in Boston, for Boston to keep it alive and send the Game 7 back to Golden State. But we'll start for Boston, and we talked about it a little bit when we get into it deeper, is you got to come out in the second half stronger. Like the first thing that you're looking at is you cannot fight fire with nothing. The Warriors are coming out, the third quarter Warriors, and even in the fourth quarter now, the Celtics are also struggling. You see, in Game 5, I forget, failed to score 25 points. I have 4 turnovers alone in the fourth quarter. So it's ridiculous. So Martin, let's talk about that for a little bit. The Celtics have to come out better in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that jumped out at me from Game 5, Matt, the stat from the bench. I mean, they got nothing from the bench. And, it goes back to what I started with stamina. I just wonder if like Derek White and Grant Williams and the guys who, not that they've been, well, Derek White had a couple of big games and he's had big games throughout the playoffs. And then back to what you were saying, James, it's like you don't want to rely on that, but you need that contribution. Like Derek White can't get 3 points off the bench. He's been giving you more than that. So I think in Boston's defense, they're going home. I think they will play better. I think they will hit shots. I think we're at the point now, guys, where the X's and O's and the strategy and what do they do differently and everyone knows everyone knows who they are and who's doing
Yeah,
what.
you gotta go beat them.
It's coming down to, that's why we have to talk about Jason Tatum, and we have to, because these are the games where those guys win the game. Yeah, there's listen, you can have your Ray Allen games and your games where other guys come in, might hit 6 threes, might have a big game like that, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what the stars are doing. I think, like, I've been impressed with how Marcus Smart, to me, has been like keeping them afloat, honestly, competitively and sometimes offensively. And he's just been impressing me because I didn't see him as a scorer or off the dribble. That's not what he is. But at times when they need him to score, he's been scoring, and he's been knocking down threes at times.
And I agree with you a lot until game 5. Game 5, he kind of got knocked off his pivot a lot in game 5, and the shots weren't falling. And then they go on this great run
because Jaylen Brown didn't get going. So
that's true.
Then
That's
it
true.
became we really need now. It was more pressure on him because Jaylen Brown didn't get going. He didn't hit any.
There was one
threes,
sequence.
no rhythm.
There was one sequence in particular, right? In the beginning of the fourth quarter, they go on this tour run in the third. They win the third. They come out in the fourth quarter, and Draymond gets them, right? He gets that tough foul, doesn't agree with it, then goes on the other end, gets the foul on Jordan Poole and the technical foul. Now, all of a sudden, there's a huge swing. The momentum goes to the Warriors, and they never saw the light of day since. And I thought that really got swept under the rug in terms of why the Celtics lost the fourth quarter. If you're going to start it on the wrong foot and give the Warriors free points and free possessions, do you expect to win that game? That's not going to happen. You let Jordan Poole off the hook, who's a terrible defender. Like, don't ever let Jordan Poole off the hook on the defensive end and then get a technical foul on top of that to send the ball back the other way and send him to the free throw line. So I do agree Marcus Smart has shown his toughness and the ability to pace the Celtics. But I thought in particular in game 5 wasn't his shining moment. I thought game 5 is really struggling. And I'm Puma fan. You don't know this about me, Martin, but I rep Puma fam heavy. That's my guy. I love when Marcus Smart goes off.
I think I may have mentioned this in a previous pod. This is probably off topic a little bit, but Draymond Green encapsulates like why he's going to be a great announcer. He knows exactly like what and when to say something to get or do something to get under your skin. It really, like, even as he's starting to get older and as the Warriors dynasty starts to age, it's incredible how they kind of still all have their fastball, so to speak. Maybe Clay, and we can talk about Clay, but maybe he's fading a little bit. But in spite of that, they're up in this series. And I'll be really interested. Draymond's got a lot of money on the table this offseason. If they win one and say, hey, we want to go at this thing again, he's one person that come the end of this season, win or lose, I'd be watching.
For sure. But to me, Jake, we talked about it off camera a little bit too, that the Warriors haven't done anything that suggests that they've wrapped up the series, that they have a hold on this series and Boston can't win. And we talk about a lot of the second halves where Boston has run out of steam. I think it's a lot of missed shots. It's a lot of turning the ball over, and they're not really just finishing these games. They're getting outscored 160 to 122 in the third alone over the course of the series. But in that, just shooting 37%. So it's not all the Warriors going out and scoring in this crazy third quarters and they can't keep up. Not shooting efficiently from the field. And then in the last 4 fourth quarters alone have scored just 86 points. So like they're not finishing these ball games. You're fighting a Warriors team that comes out the second half gate historically hot. And you know what you have to do. They're not getting it done. And to me, they find themselves on the winning end of a couple of these ball games if that's not true. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah,
for the Celtics to win the finals, if they win it, they would be the first team in NBA history to win a road elimination game in the second round, the conference finals, and the finals. Because they won a road game 6 against Milwaukee, road game 7 against Miami, and if they were to win this series, they'd win a road game 7 against Golden State. So
back in school in Beantown, man.
Wow. They're not afraid of trying to win like tough road games, but I just don't know if they have the legs in them.
You got to do it 3 times in a row against against 2 really physical teams and 2 really tough teams, and I got 3 in Milwaukee too. You do it in Milwaukee, so. Let's see. Martin, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to mention, well, I forget. I forget. Yeah. Something. Yeah.
We'll jog it. We'll jog it because we'll
My
continue on what
bad.
the Celtics.
No,
We'll
no, you're
continue
good.
what the Celtics got to do to win this series. They cannot continue to turn the ball over. We talked about the offensive foul and the technical foul from Marcus Smart. You can chalk that up as a turnover. It goes the other way, and the Warriors start their momentum in the fourth quarter. So they're 14-2 this year when they turn the ball over fewer than 16 times. In the postseason, they're 0-7 when they turn it over 16 plus times. And when you turn over 4 times alone in the fourth quarter, when the Warriors are making a run, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So is that something that you see correcting itself in Boston when they go back? We know role players play better at home. Everyone's more comfortable at home. Is that something you see continuing from the Celtics' point of view? Is that turnover aspect?
Yeah, I feel like though I think Boston is going to play uh really clean basketball in game 6. I feel like they're gonna, they won't have high turnovers. I think guys will hit shots. The turnover thing is just, again, it's just this like weird thing with them. It's like sometimes they look so physical and strong and secure, and they'll get the switch, and once Horford gets it in, it's like he's just too strong and secure, and he'll just
Mhm.
finish. And same thing with Tatum. And then other times they just look careless. Like they just don't want the ball. Like they're not the more physical team. So it's a really weird thing to have to predict and quantify. But I do feel like they, from game to game, the thing is, I feel like Golden State is just, their guys are getting more confident. Like my two guys for Golden State were Poole and Wiggins. Like, to your point, Matt, I was like, Poole and Wiggins have to get their average. Like each of them have to get at least 15 for Golden State to get what they're used to getting from the regular season. So I was really watching them, the two of them, and how much they were in rhythm every game this series. But Boston, it like, again, it starts with your best players, like Tatum and Brown. Jaylen Brown has been driving me crazy sometimes because he looks so good, and I really appreciate where he's come with his game and how sound and polished he looks at times. But sometimes that man it's like there's water on the floor. Like it's like,
Mhm.
some players are just like goofy and uncoordinated, and he looks like that sometimes. I don't understand it's my thing with Boston, bro. I don't understand how we look one way sometimes and then just completely different other times. I can't quantify that, but I think
I
I
think
think
that
being at home is going to help them.
I think that personifies itself in game one, where they look dead in the water. You're like, wow, not only is this game going to go like this, this is how the series is going to go. Everyone like in that game is maybe predicting a Warrior sweep after that. Then something, I'm not sure what, something flips. People start hitting shots. They stop turning the ball over. They start playing great defense. And then all of a sudden they find themselves on the winning side, even when Jason Tatum doesn't, have a great series. But all that you just said, Martin, I see that in game one encapsulated just the tale of two teams.
In
But if you
their
look at, go ahead, Matt.
in the Celtics' 2 wins, they've held the Warriors to 16 points in the fourth quarter and 11 points in the fourth quarter. So it's in the games where it's the fourth quarter is just such a inconsistency, and it honestly mirrors the team that the Celtics have been all season, really.
Yeah.
And going back to the ball control and security point, I think that coming into the series, that was the big question mark because they had gotten by so much with Tatum and with Marcus Smart, neither of which who are really a actual point guard. But in today's NBA, I don't know how much that really matters. And they were also winning with it. So, like, you're not going to go away from it. But Marcus Smart in game one, no turnovers. In the 4 games since then, he's averaged 4. So, as the only true guard, I think like controlling the ball and making the right reads and making the right decision is
Huge.
just so important in keeping their offense on track. And that helps Jaylen Brown and that helps Tatum a little bit when you get that switch and feel more confident in the offense. So that's kind of who I look to. But again, like, you're relying on this guy to be your facilitator or at least one of the main facilitators, and it's not necessarily a super strength of his.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a collective mindful effort where everyone is focused on, listen, like, we have to be presentable to each other for passes. We have to be ready for the next pass. Like, it really is an interconnected thing. And I'll bring it back to just Jason Tatum real quick on that, because this is important. I said this on my show. Guys, we've only seen 2 people take out the Warriors in this dynasty era, right? We've only seen 2 people do it, like pull it off. Not James Harden, not Luka, not Devin Book, not only two. LeBron James, LeBron, and Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi got him. You know, Kawhi's was a little different. You know, guys got hurt and stuff, but Kawhi still had to beat them. He still had to had to do it. LeBron and Kawhi. So if you're so Jason Tatum, that's what's on you. And if you even think back to like, I'll never forget watching those possessions that LeBron would just be picking the Warriors apart, and we didn't see anyone do that to them on a game by game basis. We saw Golden State blowing people out. Steph and them didn't even play in the fourth quarter. They're running through everybody. The finals come, Big Bron comes through game to game. Bron coming up, just
move.
Nice free. By the way, Kyrie. Oh, go ahead, Kyrie, get your 42. So when you think about that, it's like you realize, like when we talk about this is the ball security thing. Like Jason Tatum has to be that's why I talk about stamina. This has to be exhausting. Every possession, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be so great so many times. You can't be airballing the damn three, Matt. You can't have 2 air balls because those are turnovers too. Shit, just count those as turnovers.
Right.
You can't be the one doing. Derek White can come in and airball a 3. You can't do that. Your possessions have to be so sound throughout the game, and that's we're talking about the fourth quarter. It has to last. Like you can't take a break. You can't be, oh, you got it now. You don't have a Kyrie, Jason Tatum. You have Jaylen Brown. But you don't have that. So that's what I look at when I look at what it takes to really beat these guys.
Yeah, the ball security point is huge, and it doesn't even just manifest itself on him, like actually driving the lane and turning the ball over. In the first quarter of Game 5, a couple minutes before the media timeout, he is on the wing trying to do a dribble move on Kevon Looney, and Kevon Looney just simply pokes the ball away. It's out of Kevon Looney, no harm, no foul, except Ime Udoka sits that boy down and says, there's something wrong with you. If Kevon Looney is out on the perimeter, poking the ball away, come sit down. We have a couple minutes to the media timeout.
He was going to the side step to the left. This was his mistake. This is part of just not keeping it simple and just taking he had a lane to just drive left.
Just drive past
him. He had the ball in his right, and Kevon Looney was on his right, and he was getting ready to go to the right side, his left, his patent, and all Looney had to do was go like this, like
just knock it away. It's a little cat in the arm ball, just knocked it away. and it's not funny because it's a player struggling, but the quickness.
It's funny to me when it's a Celtic.
Yeah, that's true. But the quickness in which Ime Udoka took that brother out and was like, that's all I need to say. You need a breather. You need a couple minutes. You need to restart whatever you need to start.
You need to reset. Yeah, bro.
If you need to reset.
Tripping you at it's time to reset.
Go get right. And then he came out with a little bit. But I thought, I was like, that's a heck of a coaching move by Udoka to know your player. Like, man, don't even say anything to him on the way back. You know why you're getting taken out. Go get right. Let me know when you're good in a couple of minutes. But right before we move on to the Warriors part, Jake, I want to talk about, you brought up a great point about how the Celtics don't operate with a true point guard, and they've been getting by and winning up until now. But is that something that is a big detriment to them right now in the series? Because you look, they have the highest turnover percentage damn near in the league. The only team that has a higher turnover percentage than them is the Houston Rockets, and they're nowhere near the playoffs, right? So they've been getting by without this true point guard, but is that a lapse for them? Do they find themselves needing a actual distributor, actual pacemaker of the game at that guard position, or do you think it's something that they can overcome through the rest of the series? That's a really interesting point.
Well, I think they're going to have to overcome it either way.
They got no choice, right?
You're stuck with who you're stuck with. But I think, look, they're giving up some of the ball handling and distribution in exchange for some size and defense. Like, I get why they built the team that way, but looking back on the history of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, whether it be Isaiah Thomas, Terry Rozier, Kyrie Irving, they've had a lot of score first or just, general point guards in there, and it hasn't worked. And I think we've talked about it with Donovan Mitchell and with Jimmy Butler. Like, when you have wings who have the ability to read the game at a high level and have the ability to do everything you need, just let them handle the ball. Like Donovan Mitchell, the Jazz are better when he is the guy, the offense goes everything through him. Same with Jimmy. Well, Miami Heat are a little bit different, but
they got Lowry now. But
they have Lowry, they have other guys. But the point still stands. Like, I think I feel better when the ball is in the hands of my best player and I am arming him with the ability to make decisions to run the offense, whether it be a kick out three, I have some guy doing pick and roll with him, whatever it might be, I want to put him in as many ball handling actions as possible.
I
but
still think a player with, he's too old now, but like when he was good, like a George Hill type, just like stem the tide when you're like, you do the Warriors 9-0 run. We had 2 timeouts leading to dunks. Timeout, let's put George Hill in. He'll calm this game down. Like a player like that would be a good. It's not like something. It's not like a glaring hole. It's just like it would be a really nice fit. Is how I see it.
I love the point guard position. It's a glaring hole to me. My favorite players are point guards. But like Jake, I hear you. You want the just get the ball into your best player's hands, especially when it's Jason Tatum. He has the ability to distribute. But there might be a feeling, too much of a feeling to have to distribute because you don't have that distributor. Maybe bringing that in or having that allows him to just focus on what he does best and score the basketball. You're an elite scorer of the league. I don't want you to have to worry about being a facilitator too. If that comes naturally to you, that's great. Make the right move, make the pass, but it shouldn't be a like 1B thing in Jason Tatum's mind that he has to get get others involved. And like, there are some players who are just brought in to score. No one's crying for Devin Booker to get other players involved. Go score the ball. Like, you know what I mean?
Chris Paul. I mean, he has Chris Paul.
He has Chris. He has a distributor for that.
Right.
He has a distributor for that. I mean, and to me, Marcus Smart, that's not his game. He's a guard. He's not a point guard. You know what I mean? He can guard point guards on the defensive end, but that's not his game on the offensive end. And we're asking him to do that at the level to beat the Warriors. As Martin said, only 2 people have done it. Like, we're asking him to do that at that kind of level. It makes me more nervous that if Boston could continue to overcome that, because they're not overcoming the turnovers. It's getting worse and worse as the series gets on. So the Warriors are adjusting to it more and more on defense. A floor general can beat those adjustments. I'm not sure if Marcus Smart is that floor general to beat those adjustments. That's all I'm saying.
I would almost like kind of counter that too, because I definitely agree. But I would say maybe as an alternative, you could maybe think of it like this too, because I've been especially with how Boston's bench struggled, more than struggled. They really didn't do anything in Game 5. I've been talking about like just a spark, like who's the spark for Boston. Golden State spark can be Jordan Poole. It can be Gary Payton II, who's been.
I would argue it was Derek White in the beginning of the series.
There you go. Derek White has shown he can be a spark.
Right.
The kind of spark I'm talking about, though, James, like for me personally, like I'm a huge Peyton Pritchard guy. Like I'm not saying get him more minutes or anything. I'm just like, just Peyton Pritchard is like that. And for people we all know hoop and know basketball, that term is set aside for
like
certain people. Stats, minutes, nothing matters. All I'm telling you is that he's like that. Like if you get him, he's still young. He's not in situations. Again, I'm not saying throw him out there. Put him in.
He got a crazy high school mixtape. He got a crazy hoop mixtape.
Oh, that boy can hoop. He will hit threes. I know he's been up and down. Again, I think he's just adjusting the NBA and everything. But I'm talking about a Peyton Pritchard level player who's a little more experienced, who's maybe more of a veteran, one that can shoot, one that can go off the dribble, one that can make plays. That could be in the form of a point guard, of course. I could be talking about like a playmaking guard. But I'm wondering that could be just an adjustment for Boston, even going forward with their roster. It's like you might need just generally it's just offense, like shooting, just more like weaponry. You have like toughness, defenders, physicality, length, size. Like you have all of the kind of one thing they're kind of missing. And again, it's to you guys' point. It's like just that good playmaking, sound guard play. Drew Holiday changed
Drew Holiday
changed everything for Milwaukee. He changed everything for them.
So for sure. All right, we can move off the Celtics point of view onto the Warriors point of view because they need one more game to get their 4th championship in 8 years and solidify this dynasty that they're in the midst of. But they got some things that they have to continue to do or get better in if they want to pull out this Game 6 win. So the first thing that we have, and Martin, I'll ask you, is stick to their defensive game plan. And how good do you think their defensive game plan is or has worked up until this point? They've held the Celtics under 100 points in 3 of the 5 games. The Celtics scored 100 points in 16 of the 18 games in this Eastern Conference playoffs run. It's 89% of the games are scoring 100 more. They've only done it 3 times or less than 3 times in this series alone. So are you happy with the Warriors' defensive game plan? Is it working to your extent, or is it something that even needs to get turned up a notch even more?
Yeah, I feel like they've done a really good job adjusting game to game and just figuring them out and realizing who does what and when, and the fact that like they know they can stop these guys. One of the things I talked about in my preview, because Golden State's obviously the more firepower offensive team, I'm like, can we? I knew how good Boston was defensively. I respected them, but it's like I need to see them guard them. I need to make sure I can see that they're up to the challenge of, like I said, the stamina, keeping up with them, and like, can they guard them? After game one, the narrative flipped. It was like, yo, can Golden State guard them? Brown is taking Draymond off the dribble. Jason Tatum. It's like, wait, so should we be talking? You know, they're going at Jordan Poole, so it's like, damn, is it the other way around? But no, I think Golden State has just done a good job adjusting game to game, understanding how physical they have to be. They had to match their physicality. That was the difference between game one and game two. It was that physicality conversation, right? And then they held them to 88 points, and they didn't even score 90 in game two. So, I mean, Golden State knows what they're doing on both sides of the ball. They know what they're doing. I think the fact that Steph being a little more physically stronger has helped them. There have been times when they've been able to go at Steph and take advantage of those inside, but it's not you're not just abusing him. It's not he's not a liability really anymore. You know,
two-way player.
Go at him. There's a size thing. Yeah, he's not a liability. I've been watching Clay. I started watching this because I think it's interesting how Wiggins defensively has really given Clay a chance to take a step back. Remember when Clay was the guy on that side of the ball, the elite two-way guy, guard the best guy on the other team? That was Clay's role. Wiggins has really like taken that off of him. So I think Clay is a little more relaxed now. He's like, man, I can just focus on shooting the ball and just playing good defense
pressure
on
off the knee, pressure off the legs. And Jake,
come on, like,
that's
yeah, I know Clay probably thanks God for Wiggins. I mean, I just think they're quick, they're reactive, and when you're that good offensively, I just have a theory that not all great offensive teams are great defensive teams, but just when you're that mindful, when you understand movement and spacing, and when you play that kind of basketball offensively, you're also guarding that in practice. So you're getting used to like how you guard movement and stuff. So that's why they're usually elite offensively and defensively, but I think they're right where they want to be. I think they've almost cornered Boston. I'm nervous. I think Boston's going to play well in game 6, but I'm nervous for them because Steph has had his game. Wiggins has had his game. Poole's getting more confident. Draymond is good. Clay is good. Like, it seems like the Warriors might be ready to put them to put a bow on it next game. They might be due. But Golden State's right where they want to be, though, on both sides, I think.
For sure. And the Wiggins point is big. Jake, that's your observation, right, that you made, that Wiggins has just been all over the place defensively.
Yeah, there's a stat in here that he has contested 101 shots this finals, which is 26 more than any other player. So I look at the stat two ways. I mean, it is impressive in and of its own right. I think it could be somewhat shaded or jaded because he is guarding the guys. I mean, he's guarding the best players on Boston who are putting up all these shots. So naturally, he's going to contest more. But, to Martin's point, like, that used to be Draymond. That used to be Clay, who would be guarding the other team's best player. And now those guys can kind of take a step back. And it's not just Wiggins. They have a ton of bodies that they can throw at the front court of Boston. Kevon Looney, he hasn't really been like a stat sheet stuffer, but in terms of physicality, he's been a tone setter. You have Otto Porter Jr., Draymond Green, obviously, as we've already touched on. Gary Payton, he's not the biggest guy, but he can play some defense. 3 steals last game. Huge. And they're just a deep team that I think Boston is definitely struggling, where like the second unit comes in and there's really not a ton of drop off on the defensive end. And I think that's been a point of struggle for them.
Yeah, Flowers time for Gary Payton II, because that is something that the Celtics didn't know how to handle. Like you have the Warriors who make this run through the Western Conference playoffs without him in the latter part of it. So when you're going back to watch tape of the most recent games, he's not there. And the adjustments that they're able to do in the backcourt or against Boston's backcourt of Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum when he's handling the ball, because Gary Payton II is there and could guard all of them on the perimeter, I think it's huge. And I think it's something that we overlooked talking about the Warriors defensive game plan, that, we talk about how Wiggins is everywhere and about Draymond set the tone. Gary Payton II came back and brought him a spark plug defensively.
I also, just from a team perspective, I think the experience of the Warriors it shows in how calm they've been in high pressure moments. They're down 2-1 on the road in Boston, trailing at halftime, and you're not surprised that, I know it's Steph and he's one of the greatest players we'll ever see, but Steph goes off in the second half, even though he was great in the first and second that half. But even someone like Wiggins, I think that's almost one of the more underrated. Everyone's going to talk about Game 5 Wiggins. Game 4 Wiggins was huge. He had 16 rebounds, and they out-rebounded Boston by 16 in that game. And just being able to stem that tide with that hostile Boston crowd. And then even Game 5, they have a big lead early. They're up 16 midway through the second quarter. By near the end of the third quarter, Boston's taken the lead. Jordan Poole hits a crazy shot at the end of the third, and then they just dominate the fourth. They don't get rattled by situations. They just address them as they come, and that has to do with the culture and the coaching and the big three experience with Curry, Thompson, and Draymond.
Yeah, Matt, you mentioned coaching, and I was going to say something about Ime Udoka before when he came up. I feel like he's a big reason why Boston is where they are, and he's a big reason they are how they are. When you just watch his demeanor on the sideline, you can just tell, like, he chews them out, like he holds them accountable. He's telling them when, like, yo, y'all are ass right now. Like, you can just see it on his face, like, yo, what are you doing?
He'll tell them to back up if he doesn't agree with them arguing with the refs call. Like, if they, like, Grant Williams is arguing a call, and Ime had the look on his face like, you haven't been doing enough in this game to argue that call. And he told him to back up. Like, yeah, back the F up, man. Like, telling him to back up from the ref because, like, not your place. Like, yeah, you may not have fouled him, but, you got zero. You got a goose egg. You got a goose egg in the box score.
I think a big reason why they've gotten over, because the Miami series, it was looking like complaining to the refs, and that's a mental thing too. Just that fortitude. It looked like it may have hurt them in the Miami series. It looked like it was just that would be the reason they could lose, and they overcame that. I think a big reason why they've gotten this far is because of Ime Udoka. I absolutely believe that. I think their ability to respond, even how they came back at Golden State after just the way they've responded each time. What was the stat before Golden State won the last two games? Boston hadn't lost 2 games in a row since March or something.
Also, like, I thought, since the start of the calendar year.
That's coaching. Like, he has that. Again, he just holds them accountable. You can tell. Now, again, it can be tough because, like, just take Grant Williams, for instance. Like, he comes in and it's like, bro, that's why I talk about, like, the offensive spark, because, like, the Celtics, Gary Payton II had 15 off the bench in Game 5. So him and Jordan Poole gave them 29 off the bench. Now, who the hell off Boston's bench is consistently really getting at it, like, giving them that production? Derek White has had his moments and stuff, but it's like, who's gonna be that? Who has the potential to be that consistent spark for you? And that's just one thing I look at with Boston is, like, Grant Williams. We know you're not going to score a lot of points, but, like, he can hit shots, like, he can do things. Yeah. But, bro, you come in and, you get ticky-tack, you fight with Draymond, you do it. It's like, all right, bro, just come out.
You got to Draymond got his head out of the series in Game 1.
You're negatively impacting our mental psyche by getting into all that stuff, bro. We need people in rhythm, popping the ball, going off the dribble. Like, we need people to make things happen, not just come in and just cause chaos.
Yeah, and the Ime Udoka point's a great one because people forget, before the calendar clicked over to 2022, these Boston Celtics were dead in the water, 17-19 as of December 31st. And that in and of itself, coming back from that hole to just get to the NBA Finals or get through a couple playoff series, to me shows you, like, you've got a really solid coaching staff installed in Boston. But another great point that you brought up is, like, Grant Williams has kind of been on a milk carton in this series. 4 points per game. And the biggest thing is he was viable as an option on offense when he was knocking down threes at, like, a all NBA level. Now he's shooting 33%. He's only taken 9 3-pointers this series in comparison to the Milwaukee series. In Game 7, he shot 18. So like the output is just not there, and maybe that goes to the points that we were talking about.
A little bit of
the offense
defense, right?
playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I thought he'd have more of an impact in this series.
Yeah.
I really did. Not that he'd be scoring 15 a game or anything, but I just thought physicality, the fact that he has been hitting shots, I thought he would have just a little more impact. Or if he did, I feel like that's what Boston would have needed to have an advantage.
Well, I see so much of when Grant Williams goes to that corner, especially the short corner on a Jason Tatum drive. It's looking to the ball's supposed to go up, and Warriors are doing a great job of getting out to him and making him put the ball on the floor and be a decision maker. When that happens, the offense is gone. It's gone awry. This was not supposed to happen. Grant Williams is dribbling the ball. We don't know what to do, and I think that goes a little bit. The attempts for sure go more to the Warriors side of getting out to him because like. Is he going to make a super contested three? Probably not. So in his mind, let me put the ball on the floor and try to make something happen. Forgetting that he doesn't really know how to make stuff happen. That ball's just supposed to go up. So I give a little bit of credit to the Warriors. Really quick, the one last thing the Warriors have to do to pull this out is continue to get that boy Steph Curry some help. They found it a little bit in Game 5 with an Andrew Wiggins 26 points. But overall, that man's back is probably on fire the way he's having to carry the Warriors through this series. And I continue to think that the Celtics let one go in Game 5 because if Andrew Wiggins is the top scoring output on the Warriors and it wasn't a 50 ball. Now, if it's a 50 ball or a 60 ball and he's the leading scorer,
what are you going to do?
You give it to him. He scored 26 points as the leading scorer of the Golden State Warriors in a finals game. If I tell you that, you'd be like, oh, they got blown out? Or they lost? They got embarrassed? No. Yeah, they got embarrassed? Yeah, no, they won. So if that continues, I have to think that Boston gets back right in this series.
Curry's not going to go 0 for 9 from 3 again.
Well,
here's
because he got good looks, he just missed them. Yeah, that was weird about Game 5.
Do you guys know how many times in his playoff career Steph Curry has made 0 3-pointers?
That was the first time, right?
That was the first time last night, right? 0 before that. And outside of Clay, I think the starters went 0 of 19 from 3. Clay went 5 of 11, solid.
You let one slip away.
That is like
9 threes. They only made 9 threes as a team, guys. They didn't even hit double figures. They went 9 for 40 from 3.
You're supposed to win that game.
That was the game they needed. They needed.
And you're right. And you're right, man. I could be as delusionally optimistic as I want, but lightning don't strike twice in the same spot like that. Like they may not come out and shoot the lights out of the ball. They gonna hit more than 9 threes. Steph gonna give you at least 2 or 3 of them.
Steph's gonna shoot okay in either Game 6 or Game 7.
And if he does that, and the Celtics have the same defensive and offensive output, they'll blow him out. If he just shoots okay, they'll blow him out.
If Steph gets 4 of 9 from 3, that's actually good. So 4 of 11 from 3, then yeah, and that's your Warriors are going to win.
Okay.
Let me just remind you guys and everyone listening or watching or whatever that there is only one person in this series who has a nickname dedicated to Game 6. I'm just
that's true.
People,
that's true.
There's no
so is that
Derek White.
Is the bat symbol?
There's no such thing as Jaylen Brown. I've never heard that. So I'm just reminding people that there's only one Game 6 Clay, and it's Game 6. So I mean,
it goes. Jackson, Tyson, Thompson. So is the bat symbol in the air then? Is that the help that's coming for Steph Curry? Is it Klay Thompson? There's got to be somebody.
I honestly feel like everyone is going to play well for Golden State in Game 6. I really think Boston's in trouble. Like they better be in rhythm and comfortable because I think that the Golden State is going to play really well. I think it's going to be balanced. I don't know if Steph's going to have, I feel like Steph had his signature game in Boston. Not that he can't do it again and go for 30 or 40 or whatever, but I feel like the Game 4, 43, I felt like that was his game. So I just wonder if Steph, I don't know if he's going to have to go crazy, but I think he's going to get enough help. Again, I just feel like guys have been on Golden State side getting more confident game to game. They've been getting more in rhythm, more understanding of what it takes to beat this team. So I just think they're super comfortable and confident right now. And I think they really want to end it in Boston. So I think they're
going to. I don't think they won a Game 7. I don't think they won a Game 7.
Historically, there have been 7 times a team has had a chance to win the NBA Finals in Boston, a road team has. The road team is 1-6 in those games. It's really tough to do. Only team that did it was the '85 Lakers. It's really tough to do. I'm nervous about hoping for a Game 6 Clay just because I'm very pessimistic about Boston sports because they always find a way to win. and the fact that Clay's coming off a horrible injury, it's just I really want Golden State to win, and especially to shut up the Boston fans who'd be there. But I really think it's a tough ask, just because Boston's going to be really mad about letting Game 5 slip. Because there's obviously Curry could have done better in Game 5, but there's a lot of Celtics, specifically Jaylen Brown. I don't think got enough heat for his Game 5 performance. He was awful.
That's true. That's true. No, Martin pointed it out. Martin let that boy know.
Not from us. I just mean in general.
That's true.
Yeah.
So when I look at Game 6 Clay, I think you're right. Hoping for Game 6 Clay, maybe a little bit tougher in this series. We saw it in this playoffs, but this isn't the Memphis Grizzlies. This isn't, whoop that trick and we're just happy to be here. This is the best defensive team in the league all season, coming into this series. So if you look at that, if I'm Boston and I'm so defensive minded, I have to know that to close out a series, players like Clay are coming with their best punch. The Warriors are coming with their best offensive punch. And Game 6 Clay is there. I have to that's almost a point of pride. Like Game 6 Clay not about to happen on our floor. That not to close out a series, to cement your 4th title. Like if I'm a defensive minded team, that's a focus of mine. I got to talk that head on.
They also need to fade like a super hot supernova performance from Jordan Poole, which he is very capable of being the guy who is the Game 6 closeout guy if it isn't Clay.
Sure.
And before we move on from here, this isn't going to be we were talking earlier in the podcast. So maybe this will be the end of maybe Draymond's going to retire, whatever. You look at their youth who's not even playing in this series. Moses Moody, Kuminga, Wiseman. Oh my
James
goodness!
Wiseman in the shadows. James Wiseman in the shadows, just waiting to be brought out.
They're going to be who we're talking about when they're in the 2028 finals with those guys leading the show.
God, seriously, our kids will be talking about them, and I'll be like, "Yeah, the Warriors were good when I was your age, son. They were still the best team in the league." All right, Martin. Before we close out, I need the prediction, man. What happens in Game 6? Will there be a Game 7? And if so, who takes home the title in Game 7? Officially on the table.
Oh, man. My gut feeling is that Golden State is about to win Game 6. That's my gut feeling, that they're about to come in and once they really smack them in the mouth, Boston's not going to be ready. The pressure of being at home, while it's more comfortable at home, it's also more pressure. And I think Golden State is coming with an onslaught and a tidal wave that they won't be ready for. It may not be a flurry of threes, or I just think they're going to be so sound. It'll get so tight that it might be too tough for them. So that's my gut feeling. I picked Warriors in either 6 or 7. I was too on the fence about it. So I'm sticking with my pick. I think Warriors are about to win in 6.
Warriors in 6. Matt, put it on the table.
I picked Warriors in 6 before the series. It's been a little closer than I thought it would be. I thought Warriors losing Game 1 kind of threw me off a bit.
Yeah,
but if I were to think with my head, I'd pick Boston Game 6, but Warriors Game 7. But I'm picking with my heart, and I'm picking the Warriors to win Game 6 in Boston. And I get those crowd shots of crying 8-year-old Boston fans.
This whole take is skewed. This whole pod has been slated.
Are you a Laker fan? Are you?
I'm Sixers fan. I'm all Philadelphia. My dad one of my earliest basketball memories is my dad telling me how much he hated Danny Ainge.
There's an ire. There's an ire.
Wow. Okay.
No, very
So
hateable
it's
player. Very
generational.
hateable
This
player.
is a
Yeah.
Yeah, this
And
is
my
this is
grandpa
built in.
saw Wilt versus Russell in person a lot too.
Oh,
So
this has been a long time coming.
Okay.
It's not the
Yeah.
Sixers beating them,
It's in your
but
blood.
it's been a long time coming to see Boston lose at something for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your grandfather lost to somebody, your father lost to somebody, you lost to somebody, all in the Celtics. Yeah, I can see how you hurt a little bit, Matt. I can see how you hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
Jake, put it on the table. Who wins?
I really the gut does say the Warriors take this game, but I mean, if Boston, obviously they're in like a win or go home situation, but on their home floor, you know what, I'll say Warriors in 6, just because of the championship pedigree, the experience that we talked about, and also that physicality aspect of maybe some of the younger guys or inexperienced guys on Boston are fading. For that reason, I'm going to go Celtics and quietly root for the crowd shots that Matt is talking about. Quietly.
What? I mean, you might as well hop on a bandwagon with Matt. Here's what I see the Celtics are, and this is probably going to make Matt mad. The analogy I'm going to use, but they're rocky in this sense. Like they got their back up against the ropes. A giant's in front of them, teeing off on them. Are they going to fold right here? No, I think they have enough in them to at least get themselves off the ropes in the 11th round, and then come back in the 12th round and probably get knocked the snot out of. But if we're focused on the 11th round, game 6 in Boston, with that home crowd, with the sense of urgency, the sense that we cannot let it die on our home floor, I think they pull out enough to win in a game 7. And to your point, Martin, I think Ime Udoka might be the best performer, just will-wise, for the Celtics, because it's going to be a lot on his tone of like, they are not about to come in here and close it out on our home floor. They're just not about to do it. He's going to have to set that tone as a coach, but I do think they get themselves off the ropes in game 6. And then my gut feeling is it takes so much of them to do that in game 6 that they can't turn it around in game 7, and the Warriors do what they do in game 7 and win it. But just like Rocky, Matt, they live to tell the tale. We went the distance. Isn't that the moral of the story? That he goes the distance and lives to tell the tale?
Rocky, that doesn't fit at all. There's like, I could go spend 15 minutes about how all the flaws in the analogy, but it doesn't fit at all.
I didn't think it was that.
Maybe not Rocky. Maybe not Rocky.
Celtics were a slight underdog in this series.
Okay, don't pick it apart. Don't pick it apart.
It's too late.
Don't pick it apart. Maybe not Rocky, just an under. How about an underdog boxer? Don't I don't put a name to it, but an underdog boxer. But that's what I see. Oh man, I'm sorry I struck a nerve with that, Matt. I'm really sorry I did that to you. But we're almost out of time with this episode of Straight Facts. It was a great one, breaking down the NBA Finals with our guy Martin Soaries from Basketball Society. So Martin, we'll give it to you first. This is what we call out the buzzer. Got a minute and a half. Whatever you need to get on the table, you got something to get off your chest. You want to talk about sports, whatever it is that you wouldn't be afraid to tell your mama. Here you go. So you got something for us at the buzzer?
Okay, I got something. I'm gonna try to do this quickly.
Right.
Any basketball player that I train or talk to or mentor, they all hear me talk about this. So they're sick of hearing me talk about this. But I will say, in life, you can't guarantee many things. All of us have been alive long enough to know that there are things that you just can't guarantee at all. You just don't know, right? But the one thing that I've started to learn just in the last couple years, the one thing that I can guarantee will transform a basketball player's game and thus transform their lives. And the beautiful thing is that this applies to not just basketball players, not just athletes, but this applies to every single human being in the world. If you practice meditation and mindfulness, if you look into the elements of practicing your breath work and controlling your breath and what it can do for you and the elements of that, and you get real funky and pair that with some good yoga and stretching, but I'll just focus on meditation for now. Meditation is the first thing that I have practiced that is free. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to pay anybody. I don't have to do anything. It's for me. It's my own thing. It's my own practice. It's the first thing that I've learned to do that is guaranteed to get me to the state of mind that I need to be in and that I want to be in consistently, whether it be on the court or off the court or just in life. So that's my last little piece for the buzzer.
I love that. We talked about in the series, so much of it is a mindset. So anything you do to help ease your mind, get you into that state, that's awesome, man. I'm appreciate you sharing that message. And go ahead and plug yourself too, because you didn't do that enough. So where can we find you? Where your socials and everything? Basketball Society. Tell the people.
Appreciate you. Yeah, Martin Soaries. You can follow me, Martin.Soaries on Instagram, Basketball Society _ on Instagram. And we have the Basketball Society podcast hosted by me. It's on iTunes and SoundCloud. And you can also check out episodes on YouTube. We have video episodes as well with interviews with players and guests and me talking about more mindfulness stuff and all kinds of stuff with basketball. So that's where you can find me. I appreciate you guys having me on. For real, it's much love. I really enjoyed this. So thank you again for having me on. It's much love.
Of course, man. We're gonna bring you back too.
Whenever you need me, whenever you got my number, whenever you need me, I'll be here.
For sure. Matt, you got something for us at the buzzer?
I need advice about a work situation
Safe space,
when a
brother.
coworker has just awful sports takes. Just
like shoot one out there.
So I really like the guy's name's Andrew. He's just turned 40, so like he's seen where he saw like the 90s, but he's not like a 90s lover. So like he's like some crazy stuff, like you know how some people say Grant Hill would be in like an all-time great if he never got hurt.
Yeah,
well, that's fine. He says he'd be top 5 all time if he never got hurt.
I don't know about that. I don't know if we're at 5. I don't know if we're at 5 now.
No, that's not the debate. This is what got me. He said Jamal Crawford was better than Manu Ginobili.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another pretty bad take.
I love Jamal Crawford. Don't get me wrong. That's a hooper right there.
That's not as egregious as
That's not. I wouldn't even. Why are we putting him in a category that's not even fair to him? It's not even. Because
he's like comparing 6 men. If you actually look at Jamal Crawford, he was better than Manu Ginobili, and I was like, well, no. And we didn't have the time to finish the argument because the customer walked in.
Yeah, good. That was God. That was God saying, like, man, I'm gonna let you off the hook.
It's like 3 days later, and I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, that's my advice. I would tell you to not let it ruin your day, because clearly every time he does it, it ruins your day. It throws you off your pivot. Like life got too many stressors for you to let what's the name, Andrew, to let him get you when you leave work, man. You gotta leave it at work. Jake, you got something to the buzzer?
So yeah, I want to just give a quick shout out to a podcast that a company I work for just launched, which if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you are in the Philadelphia area. But it is called Unwritten. It is hosted by Jimmy Rollins and Ron Darling. Mm-hmm. And they go through all of the unwritten rules of baseball and share stories and pretty much the player perspective as well. And so just recently they talked about no-hitters, and he was dropping some really great gems from Roy Halladay.
Roy Halladay stuff, yeah. Yep. MLB posted it, I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, so just if you are into baseball, I know we mostly focus on football and basketball, but if you are into baseball, just a phenomenal story podcast that if you have some time, I would love if you checked it out.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Congrats on doing great work with them. J-Roll, my all-time favorite baseball player, man. So I'm definitely going to have to check that out.
Legend.
But, all right, y'all. For my at the buzzer, we're going to play everyone's favorite game. Does James have unrealistic social expectations?
I'm starting to think this is like the third installation, so I'm starting to think that the answer might be yes.
No, but the first two coming up. But the first two, you guys sided with me. So I decided I have to keep for reference, Martin. One day, I'm real big on if I sneeze and you hear me.
One thing. We have to mention this is James telling the story, so there's clearly a bias.
James,
you have to take
that in mind. Okay.
We are straight facts, right? I'm just gonna tell you the facts of the story. I'm just gonna tell you what went down. So I'm big on if I sneeze and you hear me, Martin, you better say bless you. Like don't nothing. It's my biggest pet peeve. Okay. And my mother of all things knows that. So a couple months ago, I'm sitting at the dinner room table and I sneeze, big sneeze, not true. And she's sitting right at the sink and she don't say anything. She hears me and she don't say anything. So she starts talking to me. And I'm saying, hold on. you didn't hear me sneeze just now? And she got so pissed at me. She got so mad at me that I interrupted her to say that. And then she fires back at me at the end of a rant. James, you just have unrealistic social expectations. And you know how you said Andrew has gotten this to stay here. This can't leave my head. So now every time I think something that I think is abnormal, I'm like, do I have unrealistic social expectations? Let me run it by the group. Here's the latest installment of that. I am real protective about my food. Like I don't like you being all up in it. I don't like you like your nose all your nose all on top of it. And do not, for the love of God, don't touch my food if I didn't say it's okay. I'm not sure where these people were raised or why it's okay, but do not just come up and look at what I'm eating. Oh man, that looks good. You could like and touch what I'm eating. Like don't do that. And it's happened a couple of times in the past couple of months. There are two people in this world that I give uninhibited access to my food and what I'm eating. My mom and my girl. I don't got a girl right now. So there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. One person can touch my food without asking. That's it. And if you're not her, don't touch my food. Am I weird like that? Because I think at this point, I'm starting to think I'm weird. Like it happened at work. Like someone I'm like, I'm pretty close with. He's my man, but he's my work friend. But we're always sitting together. So I'm eating pizza from the mall food court. And he comes up, he's like, yo, that looks good, man. And like touches, like flips the crust of it. Like does a little on the crust. Martin, thank you.
It was a sanitary conversation.
I almost thank you. I almost threw down in the break room. We almost fought at work. And I was like, bro, like don't ever check my pizza again.
Definitely not on pizza.
Okay, so now to the group. Is that an unrealistic social expectation of mine? Am I too weird about my food?
You're definitely from the 20 or however many years I've known you. You're definitely a little weird about the food. I personally, it's not like it wouldn't like. Here's what I'll say. I also find it like very odd that someone would just go up and take something without asking. You have some like really hungry friends or something. Like this happens to you more than anyone I've ever heard of ever.
Well, sometimes if you seek trouble, you'll find it. So sometimes I probably hate it so much. I probably manifest it because I disdain it so much. It's like an energy that gives off. Someone walks in and they're like, ooh, I should touch his food. And they don't even know why. I should go after his food. So like, but you're right. I'm consistent with that, man. I've always been, and high school was the worst because you're all on top of people when you're eating, people touching on each other. And do not touch my food. Like don't, I'm just as mad if you go like, oh man, that looks good, man. What you got there? And like, you're like on top of it, sniffing it like, yo, like oh my God.
That's too far. That's a bridge too far. You gotta let people inhale the aromas.
Leave my food alone, dog. Like, it makes me sick just thinking about it. It makes me so bad.
So the theme I've gathered is that you're correct, but you're too correct in the sense that you get too mad about it because you're right. You're right, but your reaction to them being wrong is like there's a chance there's a chance it's too much.
Right.
Based on, I feel like that's the part of the story we're not hearing.
Fair. The degree in which I correct people may be a bit harsh, but I just think I have to set down the law a little bit when it comes to these things because it's just I would innately do it, and it makes me mad that I feel like everyone should innately do these simple things, and they don't. For the other ones, Martin, it was sneezing or blessing me when I sneeze. And if I hold the door open for you on the outside door panel, hold the door open for me on the inside panel. It's just common courtesy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm asking simple things here, people. I'm not asking tall tasks. I'm not asking crazy things. Scratch my back if I scratch yours.
Mad about it.
Yeah. I'm getting hot about it. Let me end the podcast before I do. I got to shout out my man Martin Soaries one more time for coming on the pod. Basketball Society, the Basketball Society online, the Basketball Society podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Plug in because he's going to get used to hearing him because he's going to be back with us a lot. I loved this pod. I loved the insight and the energy that you brought, man. It was a great fit. So thank you. Also, shout out everyone on the Up On Game Presents Network, LeVar Arrington, Plexoverse, TJ Hushman-Zada, and shout out to my guys, Jake Galley and Stat Matt Robinson. I'm James Jackson. These have been the facts.
Straight up.